Hello and welcome back. Today we are going over Chapter 2, Section 4 in A Course in Miracles. And I am praying that I understand this clearly and can speak it plainly. Because this is one that I think is important to understand with love. And it talks about the importance of not increasing fear around this subject. And so, anyway, I'm praying that it is received with love and at whatever level we're ready to receive it. Okay, with that, Chapter 2, Section 4, titled Healing as Release from Fear. Our emphasis is now on healing. The miracle is the means, the atonement is the principle, and healing is the result. To speak of a miracle of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Healing is not a miracle. Okay, so really quick, I just want to break this down. So the miracle is the means, right? We're talking about healing. The miracle is the means, the atonement is the principle, and healing is the result. So the atonement is an act of love. So the means are miracles because miracles are expressions of love. The principle that the atonement is based on is love. Okay, so then the means of the atonement are expressions of love. And then healing is the results of those things happening. So it's saying that a miracle of healing, and it has that in quotes, a miracle of healing is actually to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Healing is not a miracle in and of itself. It is the result of miracles, but it's not a miracle. The atonement, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is a result. The kind of error to which atonement is applied is irrelevant. All healing is essentially the release from fear. To undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. You do not understand healing because of your own fear. So the way I understand this is that the atonement is the undoing, right? And it's based on love. That is the principle that the atonement is built on, is love. And so the undoing is just undoing anything that isn't love to try and get back to being able to perceive only love, because love is technically all that is real. And so when you are healed, it's not because someone gave you an expression. The expression of love is not what healed you. It's the undoing. You undid some belief that you were lacking or broken or whatever. And then because of that, you are now healed. But healing itself is not a miracle. Healing is not an expression of love. You don't give someone healing, and that is an expression of love. Healing is a result of undoing anything that blocks you from love. I don't know that it's super important that make a ton of sense, because just express love. And whatever happens, and it's going to be good, right? So, okay. Paragraph 2, a major step in the atonement plan is to undo error at all levels. That's a major step in the atonement plan. Sickness, or in quotes, not right-mindedness, is the result of level confusion, because it always entails the belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another. We have referred to miracles as the means of correcting level confusion, for all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur. So when we have sickness or not right-mindedness, it's the result of level confusion because it entails a belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another level. Only the mind is capable of error. The body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. The whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief that there is a creative ability in matter which the mind cannot control. So, magic in this, by A Course of Miracles definition, is when you believe that matter somehow has a mind of its own and can create, and that your mind has no control over it. Our minds are actually so powerful that they can control matter. And there is no matter that is beyond our control when our minds are healed. Let's add that little caveat. When our minds are healed, there is no matter that we can't control. That's why I believe Christ could walk on water, right? Because he could control the matter with his mind, because his mind was healed. Our minds are not healed, and so it feels like matter can control us. But technically, that is not true. But because our minds are so powerful, and what we truly believe, even if it's incorrect, we make it real temporarily. So, anyway, that's why we can't walk on water. We sink in water and we can drown in water because our minds are not healed enough to be able to remember that we can actually control those things. Okay, so the body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. The whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief that there is a creative ability in matter which the mind cannot control. This error can take two forms. It can be believed that the mind can miscreate in the body, or that the body can miscreate in the mind. When it is understood that the mind, the only level of creation, cannot create beyond itself, neither type of confusion need occur. Okay, again, I'm praying that I understand this correctly and that I can communicate what I think that I understand in a way that is clear and simple. So, physical illness is this belief in magic that we think that something is beyond the control of our mind. So, our body is creating havoc and we have no control over it. And so, we're just trying to manage symptoms. That is a belief in magic, to think that our body can be doing something outside of our own control. When it is understood that the mind, the only level of creation, cannot create beyond itself, then there won't be that confusion. So there's a confusion between believing that the mind can miscreate within our body or that our body can miscreate in our mind. And that's level confusion. Those levels don't mix in that way. So our mind can miscreate. Our mind is the only thing that can create. So it's the only thing that can miscreate either. And so when there is an issue in the mind, the body then responds to that issue and starts to show symptoms of what's going on in our mind. But it's not like your mind can, like, little. I have this visual of a little, what would the word be? Well, a little troublemaker. So I have this visual in my mind of a little troublemaker, like running from the mind, going down into the body, messing up a whole bunch of stuff, and then running back into the mind. And then we come and we're like, oh man, look at this huge mess. We've got to fix it in the body. That's the problem, is that the mind can't mess things up in the body that then need to be fixed within the body. They have to be fixed in the mind. The body is just responding to the errors that are occurring in the mind. I hope that makes sense. That's how I'm understanding this. If you see a different way to interpret this, what A Course in Miracles is saying here, please say something in the comments. I am totally open to other perspectives, but that's how it makes sense to me. In paragraph 3, it says, only the mind can create because spirit has already been created, and the body is a learning device for the mind. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. So your body is not a lesson in itself. It's just a learning device that is here to help your mind learn things. That's why we came here, was for experience and learning. So that's its sole purpose. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst a faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. So the worst thing your body can do is not help you learn, but it can't actually introduce a learning error in and of itself. It can't miscreate. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the atonement to two-edged application. So remember, I was talking about atonement, I think, in the first section of this chapter, and how the atonement is the only defense that is not a double-edged sword, that can't be compared to a double-edged sword. It can only protect, it cannot attack. And so it's comparing the body to the atonement. It's saying technically it's just a learning device and it cannot be used to attack. And I know you're saying, oh, well, we see people attack other bodies all the time, but not attack in a way that can do any real damage, I think is what it's saying. So the body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the atonement to two-edged application. So you can't defend and attack with the body. This is not because the body is a miracle. So the body is not an expression of love, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. The body is not inherently open to misinterpretation. The body is just a body. It's just a body. The body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be, and frequently are, overevaluated. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in the world. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. If one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself. Does anyone else just understand that off the top of their heads? Because I know I didn't. And I'm still not sure I do, let's be honest. So the body's abilities can be, and frequently are, overevaluated. We often think our body has more power than it actually has. It is a neutral learning device. It is the same as time and space. It is temporary, it is neutral. It's just kind of here to help us learn things. It's not inherently good or bad. It's like this little lump of clay, and our mind is the one that is molding the clay into whatever it is it wants to mold it into. The body is just neutral. It's just kind of doing what it's told. So it's not inherently open to misinterpretation, apparently, but its abilities can be and frequently are over evaluated. We think the body has more of a mind of its own than it does. It has no mind of its own. We are the mind of its own. So when it is almost impossible to deny the body's existence in the world, but those who do so, those who do try to deny its existence, that try to say, oh, I wonder, I'm curious, because I don't know. But I'm curious if this is referring to people who completely deny the body. I mean, we all know that we have a body, right? Like, you have a body. But say that it has absolutely no use, not even as a learning device, or try to focus solely on spiritual and deny all body. There are like some spiritual practices where they try and like deny their body as much as they can without dying. I think that's rare, but I think it does happen occasionally. So I wonder if it's saying that those who are denying the body's existence in this world are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. Because remember, it talked about how denial is actually a good thing. When you deny error, when you deny the ability of error to hurt you, that's a really good use of denial because error can't hurt you. So you're denying what is not true, which means you're accepting the truth. But this, denying the existence of the body in this world, is a particularly unworthy form of denial. And the term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. Your mind doesn't need to be protected by denying completely anything that is not of it. If one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself. And it's not super clear to me in this text when it says if one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, like what unfortunate aspect? I'm not sure to which part it's referring to as the unfortunate aspect of the mind's power. But basically, a thought I have that may or may not be on point is this ability for your mind to affect your body in a way that we see as illness. If you deny your mind's ability to do that, and it's an unfortunate ability that we can miscreate with our mind, and that's unfortunate. But if you deny that aspect of the mind's power, you are also denying the power itself. And it's better to be aware of your power than it is to try and hide your power and pretend like you don't have that power, because you have it. There's no getting around it. And you can either use it for good or you can use it for less good, not as good. You can use it to create or miscreate, but denying that you have the power is only going to increase miscreation. It's not going to keep you from miscreating, I think is what that means. Please comment if you have another perspective on this, or even questions that might help us like tease out, because I think questions are really powerful. All right, paragraph 4. All material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. So when you take something physical to try and fix something physical, you're actually restating, you're getting more entrenched in magic than in like true creative power. This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. You're like, oh, something's wrong with my body. Let's take a physical thing to fix the physical thing. And you're denying that it's your mind, that it's in response to an error in your mind that your body is having a physical issue. It is a second misstep. So the first misstep is to believe that the body makes its own illness. It is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents, so through physical means. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the atonement. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. This is because the last thing that can help the non right minded or the sick is an increase in fear. They are already in a fear weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening. Okay, so now let's unpack it a little bit. So, the first misstep is to believe that the body makes its own illness. And so you just need to fix it in the body and that you don't change anything in your mind because it's your mind in its response to miscreation in your mind that your body is exhibiting physical symptoms. It is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. But it does not follow, however, that the use of such agents like medicine or, whatever, for corrective purposes is evil. So I have heard of people who believe this, right? That any physical symptoms you have, it's really a spiritual issue, which is the same as saying it's your mind. And so they don't take, they don't go to doctors, they don't believe in going to doctors, they don't take any kind of medicine, they don't follow any of those protocols. If they were to get cancer, they just let it take them. They try and heal themselves only through spiritual means. And think that like modern medicine is essentially evil. And this is saying the use of such agents, like outside things like medicine and whatever, doctor's advice, for corrective purposes is not evil. It is not evil. It's maybe not correct, but it's also not evil. And I love that it kind of fleshes this out. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the atonement. So the atonement is the only thing that can heal. Undoing whatever belief they have that they are lacking or broken or whatever, that's the only thing that can truly heal them, is to undo those beliefs in the mind. But sometimes the illness has such a powerful effect on us, and our mind is so like intertwined with it that we temporarily don't have access to the atonement. Like we cannot quite allow that undoing. And if you remember in our previous, actually this just came to me. Okay, so in our previous section, the altar of God, it talks about both the separation and the fear are miscreations that must be undone for the restoration of the temple and for the opening of the altar to receive the atonement. So if we have too much fear, if you are like terrified because you have this illness and you're afraid it's going to kill you or, cripple you or whatever it is, if there is so much fear around that fear has to be removed before you can make room for the atonement, before you can accept the atonement. So sometimes we need those outside like magic things, a magic pill, like literally a magic pill. We need a pill or some sort of treatment or whatever because we are too afraid. And so we can't even begin to accept the atonement and accept the true healing until we've mitigated some of that fear. And sometimes we need a little magic to, a sugar pill even to help us believe that we're going to be okay. And then we can start to heal the mind. So that makes sense to me. So, in this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. So, a pill or a treatment or whatever is temporarily given healing belief until you can, like, get yourself to a place where you can start to accept the atonement and start to undo those thinking errors that you have. This is because the last thing that can help the non right minded or the sick is an increase in fear. So, saying you just need to heal yourself, this is all your own fault. You're creating all these issues in your body. So, why don't you fix it? Like that just increases the pressure and increases the fear. And that's the last thing they need. They're sick because they're afraid, so, afraid of something. They are already in a fear weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening. Isn't that crazy to think about? That someone would find a miracle, an expression of love, that they would be afraid of an expression of love. And yet, I think it does happen when I was actually talking to a friend recently, and she grew up in a household where she got yelled at a lot. And her husband now isn't a yeller. And so they were in a situation where if it had been in her household when she was a child, she would have gotten reamed for certain things that had happened. She would have been blamed and yelled at and, all this stuff. And her husband did none of that. And it was uncomfortable for her. It was actually uncomfortable for her because she knows how to defend herself and what to expect and all those things when she's being yelled at and attacked. But when her behavior was just kind of accepted and we just move on quietly, it was uncomfortable, which is so interesting. Like she would have been more comfortable being yelled at than she was with just being accepted for, her quirks or whatever. And so even though it sounds crazy that we would be frightened of miracles, I think it's not as crazy. I think it happens more often than we realize, that we don't think we deserve love. And so we're actually afraid of love. Or we're so used to being treated in a way that is not loving that it's almost uncomfortable when we're just accepted and loved without strings, without attachments, without anything. Like, anyway, something to think about. Paragraph 5. The value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. So the value of the atonement, the value of the undoing, it doesn't lie in the manner in which it is expressed. It doesn't matter how it's expressed. It will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. If you try and give a miracle to someone and you express it in a way that makes them afraid, like in this example with my friend, then it doesn't really do its job because we're trying to undo fear with miracles, not increase fear, right? So, a miracle to attain its full efficacy must be expressed in a language, and that doesn't necessarily mean physical, like language that you speak, but any kind of emotional language, physical language, spiritual language, that the recipient can understand without fear. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. Fear just decreases our ability to communicate, both with the spirit and with each other. And so that, again, is why we shouldn't use fear to motivate people. But I won't hop back up on that soapbox today. That was last time's soapbox. So if you missed it, you can go back to the previous section. And that is it. That is this section on healing as a release from fear. And again, take it with love. Take it with love and not as increased pressure that anytime I get sick, it means I'm thinking something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I'm somehow like, I went through that phase. I went through that phase where I read this and kind of understood it. And I thought, okay, so basically I just need to think correctly and I'll never be sick. And then I got sick. And then I proceeded to beat myself up and have all this guilt and shame because somehow I'm thinking something that's making me sick. And that's not helpful. That's not helpful. So now, when I get sick, as I inevitably do on occasion, I do feel like I get sick less, but I still get sick sometimes. And now I just rest. I just think, oh, maybe I'm overworking myself, and this is my mind's way of saying, you have got to stop. And so I sleep and I drink lots of water. I try and eat good things. And sometimes I take medicine. I actually just finished an antibiotic yesterday. And I kind of resisted taking the antibiotic, I'll be honest. I resisted it. But I finally, as symptoms were persisting and persisting, and I just thought, you know what? It's okay. It's not evil. It's not evil to take an antibiotic. And so I took it with the understanding that there was other work I wanted to do to heal whatever in my mind was causing my body to react in this way and to have physical symptoms that were uncomfortable. And so I think as long as we pair them, like take the physical means necessary. If it's, something that is persisting and you're like, okay, this is obviously just thinking good thoughts isn't going to heal this one. But also with curiosity of what needs to be healed in my mind? What do I need to correct in my mind so that this doesn't keep showing up again? And it has made me look at those pharmaceutical commercials differently, even more differently. But if you've ever seen a pharmaceutical commercial, at least in the United States, they say all the one thing that this particular drug is going to, nearly cure. And then it gives a laundry list of side effects. And some of them sound worse than the original condition, to be honest. So, seizures and death and whatever and strokes. And it's like, well, is that worth the risk? I don't know. For a little skin rash? But I wonder, it's increased my curiosity. I wonder if the reason why all these other side effects show up is because when you're taking a magic pill to just fix something in your body and you're not doing the healing for the mind, then you're just suppressing one symptom, but that issue in your mind is going to flare up in other symptoms. It's going to come up in other issues. It's an interesting thought, huh? Like maybe that's why there are a million side effects to take care of one little issue, one physical issue. And I almost forgot, but remember that it said in chapter 1, section 1, so the very first section of the text, paragraph 24. Miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself and can therefore abolish both. Which goes along with what we just read, right? Like, you made it. You made it in your mind. You can heal it. But don't let the pressure of feeling like you should be able to heal it just create greater fear, because that just makes it worse. So go ahead and take your magic pills, your magic treatments, whatever, and be open and curious about, what can I what can I be working on in my mind so that when I'm done with this magic pill, I'm done with this treatment, it doesn't just come back. Right? Or another symptom show up somewhere else. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it didn't create too much dissonance. Hope to see you next time. Please comment if there's anything that was like dawned on you, an aha moment, or like, whoa, I have way more questions now, or hey, I have a different way of looking at this than the way you looked at it. I would love to hear anything that you have to say.